I lost track of the shopping carts, but basically I filled up their entire customer service waiting area with shopping carts full of glass because Anchorage Recycling Center refuses to take glass back in the day, and they reinstated it probably because of me. I can't prove it, but like within days of me dropping off all that glass at Target, they suddenly started taking glass again. But yeah, it
Well,
may just be
we never know the impacts that we have, and that's why it's always important to lean forward and to be bold. Not aggressively so, but to lean into the future and to write the script, and that's what we're doing here tonight. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the January 19th Green Party of Alaska General Assembly meeting. Tonight we have a lot to discuss, and so what we were covering a moment ago was the discussion about the times and what works best for folks, and then we were getting into the discussion of the Green New Deal. So now that we're formally started, I want to go ahead and lay out the ground rules here. So people may join us as we chat. We'll do a round robin. I'll try to make sure everybody gets a chance. If you can try to keep your mics off when you're not chatting, and if you can try to keep your responses down to 30 seconds, I'll try to keep my dialogue down to a minute or so we can actually have a good conversation here and then try to get some stuff done. Basically, where we're at on agendas is, basically an update on Earth Day organizing, an update on the convention, the Constitutional Convention, Earth Day elections and the events around Earth Day, and then motion 2101, 2102, and 2103. So is there anything else of note, of importance that we need to cover tonight? All right. Hearing no other suggestions, I'll go ahead and jump right into it. So the discussions we were having before were about, first of all, old business, 6 p.m. We tried last week for 7 p.m. We've tried to adjust a few times for folks to meet, but frankly, more people are watching the recordings, and I think it's important that we use this meeting the best we have it. There's just so much going on right now. Trying to get people's attention, trying to get them to focus on a single time frame, I think is a disadvantage. We have a great medium that we can record these and post them, and people can discuss it. So I think we came to a kind of consensus to go back to 6 p.m. Eric, would you like to weigh in on that before we put it to a vote?
I'm good with either time. It just happened to be that I scheduled my vet appointment for like 5 o'clock, which was my fail, but I was able to chime in anyway.
Yeah. Well, the issue, as we were talking about, is the consistency. If we do it every day at a certain time, people can start working it into their schedules. And so right. If we start now, yes, by 2024, people should be able to show up for the meetings.
Yeah. So yeah, if we just keep a consistent time that seems to work, then yeah.
Okay. So it's not really a motion, but I advocate, and we do have 3 people here, so we do have a quorum, and so I'm going to put it to a vote on 6 p.m. being the official meeting time for the Green Party of Alaska's virtual online forum, at least during our winter times. And winter times will go through April 1st. We'll go through from September 1st to April 1st. How does that sound?
I prefer doing this at 6. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so all in favor of the meeting, the wintertime meetings being at 6 p.m. on Tuesday nights, say aye. Josh?
Aye.
Okay. I didn't do that very well. I should have round robined it, but we'll get better at this, and these recordings will help us do that. So we appreciate you joining us and for enduring our growth periods. So, okay, so we'll do that on 6 p.m. We were talking about the Green New Deal and the relevance to the work that we're doing up here. But I want to postpone that for a minute and go ahead and focus on going through the Earth Day stuff. Get a chance for people to join us for a more meaningful discussion here. So as we discussed last time, what we can do is use this opportunity between now and Earth Day to focus on getting full elections. I've been running as the interim chair for 2 years trying to get the party started without any direction or understanding of what it meant to be a party, how it was supposed to run, or anything like that. So it's been very much trial by fire. And Josh has been experiencing that this year, and I appreciate you sticking with us. Because we are exploring new territories, and now we're even exploring new territories. What does it mean to be an independent party? And we've had some pushback on, we're not affiliated with the Green Party of the United States anymore. So does that mean we're not green? Does that mean that we're no longer exist? And if we do, what's our purpose? So I've been doing some research, talking to a lot of folks, and the key point of being a political party as opposed to a social group is the two most important and public things, and that's candidates and surrounding elections, as well as motions, proposals. Those two the things that go on the ballots and pushing those. So behind the scenes on that, there's the idea of policy research and candidate training. The question is how to fund it. What is the best methodology for making all of this work? And really, what kind of resources do we want to put into it? Is it worth it? I'm involved in politics, in civics. I think politics is an outdated term we should move away from because it denotes personalities and perspectives and more of a social club than civics, which is defined as people engaged in the governments of working together. And as we advocated this summer, when you're not working with the government or relying on the government, you have to work with and rely on each other. And I think civics covers that a lot more than the word politics, which frankly in the world has become a 4-letter word. When you bring up politics or indicate that you're part of a political group, you've got a strike against you, and it shouldn't be like that. So that's why we're trying to focus on Earth Day with the with what happened with the founder's letter to the beast and moving forward on that. So start off with Eric. Do you have any comments or thoughts on using Earth Day as a way to kind of reorganize and get us started again?
I think he must have disconnected.
Okay, well, Josh, to you.
Last year I tried to organize something for Earth Day. Unfortunately, the pandemic said otherwise. But you had a event online that was a good turnout, and it was very fun. I think if we could do that for Earth Day, or do several things in April, like several events on different days in April like that, I think it'll be certainly it'll be at least something we could do. Earth Day ought to be the most important day for any green.
Period.
And we absolutely should do something.
Okay. Well,
maybe in 2022 we could organize events where people could show up, and we could do workshops or something, marches.
So, and I've been modeling my efforts to build a party based on, candidates. And so that's why we've been talking about having elections and doing all this kind of stuff. But, as I've learned, a lot of these independent parties, especially the small ones, they don't do party elections. Like Kerry, he was the chair of the Independent Green Party of Virginia for 10 years. And I see challenges with that, just like I see challenges with the, long-term political campaigns. But at the same time, what do you do? In the Green Party of Alaska, it spent 2 years in a box, and that didn't help anyone. And so I'm torn on how to address this. You know, when Elizabeth found out that I was chair again, she started raising hell about me being chair after Adam resigned. Well, Adam resigned because she harassed him for 14 hours straight. So
So is that what happened? She harassed him?
well, between her and the stuff that was going on in the listserv, the messages from Andrea, the messages on the listserv, because basically they just started attacking him, you know, basically saying he was a puppet or a pawn. And, you know, it was really sad. It really, really was sad. But, you know, as far as us trying to get organized, right now we have the advantage, and that home field advantage is the fact that everybody's stuck at home. And as long as we can provide videos of decent quality content, we can attract them. And if we can give them action items on things that they can actually do, well, then we can keep them engaged. You know, you mentioned the event yesterday or on Sunday, and that was part of the Constitutional Convention thing. So I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to that. But right now, you know, this is a matter of coordinating between social groups, environmental groups. You know, like we're trying to coordinate several things, including with the Food Sovereignty Task Force, the idea of putting together concerts and using that to raise money for food, for the food sovereignty efforts, which goes towards building a local living economy in every community that can allow it to grow, you know, the majority of the food it needs. You know, most communities have no idea about what kind of food their citizens need, let alone how to provide it for them on an annual and consistent basis. More importantly, how to provide them with real food and not crap in a box or in a can. So these are some major shifts that need to happen, and they need to happen pretty quick. The advantage of 2020 is the fact that people are pivoting on a daily basis. They're changing to keep up with how things are going. And we can use that to our advantage if we can rise to the occasion. So I'm sorry that we lost Eric. And I know that this is be better if we had more people here, but again, these will come. So we'll just go ahead and go through the list here, and as we get through it, we'll continue to grow. All seeds start really small. You know, think about how small a sequoia seed when it started as compared to what an adult sequoia tree is. You wouldn't recognize them. I think that's what's going to happen over the next decade with the Green Party of Alaska, the Green Party of the world, as well as this environmental movement. From my perspective, if we're not successful in what we're doing, we're most likely all going to be dead anyway. So we have nothing to lose.
Yeah, certainly.
So, you know, so we'll go into the next topic of the Constitutional Convention. Well, so before we go on to that, do you have any questions about Earth Day or what we're trying to accomplish with the general organizing?
I'll just say, you know, you mentioned us, you know, officers, small parties like this one having the same officers for years and years. You know, we're doing elections in April, and I'll be fine if I was elected out. You know, I don't like what other people are trying to do. Instead of they're trying to circumvent our democratic process. You know, it will be hard. Look how many people are in the call. I don't think it'll be hard if you could find enough people to. If you wanted the Green Party of Alaska to change, I don't think it'd be hard to really put this party in a new direction. Unfortunately, you know, some people just don't even want to put that small amount of work into it. And I don't get why. And like you said, some people are what do they call their political amateurs, or maybe civic amateurs, as you might like to call them instead, where they like to concentrate on big news stories and the presidential election. We really have to, as a political party, or maybe perhaps a civic party, we have to start concentrate on things that we could do at our scale, at the individual scale, and at the local level to really grow into a political party. You know, we're not gonna, unless we get the reincarnation of Theodore Roosevelt and have him run as a Green, we're not gonna have a national party in the next 4 years. We're really gonna have to plant a seed and grow it from there, as you alluded to with the seed.
Sure. Well, that's the real challenge is, it's easy to get involved in things when they're popular, when they're fun, but there's a lot of work that goes into party planning. It's a full, it's a career itself. And so as far as being able to create a party where people can work it into their busy schedules, I mean, because there's a lot of people that support the things that we do, support our positions. The challenge is like I said, working it into their schedule to be present, to be able to be here for these meetings. And so I think that this is where we can use our presence and our opportunity to record these meetings. And then instead of trying to, pass measures and all of that other kind of stuff, use the net and the resources we have to put it out there for discussion and then put it out there for the vote, like we discussed last week. Now, the challenge is that, we have to follow up with that. So essentially, we have three measures that were put out for discussion last week, but I never got around to being able to actually put them up on the webpage to get them discussed. And so this week we're supposed to be just, putting them to a vote. And, it's really challenging because, as politics, it seems optional. Politics strikes people more as a hobby. I don't view this as a hobby. Certainly is not something I would do and volunteer for fun. The reason that I've been gravitating towards this as a form of civic action is that this type of advocacy is the rent that I pay for living in a free world. This is the price that you pay for freedom is constant vigilance, as well as personal responsibility, and that's not something that we hear about in many parties, including the Green Party. And so that's where I think that we need to, or we need to focus on, and we have an opportunity here to redefine ourselves and use that opportunity to redefine what it means to be green in 2021, and then from a centralist position, grow a party of millions of greens, just like this field of sunflowers behind me. So I think that's a key strategy to having ballot access, because then you have the voters and the volunteers and the money to support the candidates. Without it, all you have is signatures and money to throw at a problem. And then for us as a party, we've talked about money not being the motivating factor for determining things, but action has to be. And you're right, we have to focus on things that we can do locally and things that can be sustained locally, and that's how we build power rather than trying to focus our agenda every 4 years, because there's a lot of things that we can do. So anyway, so to give an update on folks, we've started the process. Back in December, we voted to hold a constitutional convention because basically back in August, all of the environmental groups turned on the Green parties, not just the Green Party of Alaska or the Green Party of California or the Green Party of Georgia or even the Green Party of the US, all Greens. They basically sold out to the Democrats and Republicans and said we had two choices. And what it proved and what it brought to light was things that many people, including some conservatives and Republicans, have been saying, that climate action, to a degree, is a racket. That there are actors out there that are paid to keep things going because there's more money to discuss climate change than there is to solving it. And those people are paid to take and distract and disenfranchise advocates like ourselves. And so we have to sort out who's who. And this is one of the reasons that I think the Greens really need to engage in and take over Earth Day. I mean, if there was any holiday that the Greens should be involved in, it's Earth Day. And why is that? And that's because we are the voice of the planet. At least I think that's what we were starting out to be. And one of the things that we've learned about in this season is the fact that the Green Party doesn't represent what it used to. It's tried to be so many things to so many people, it's become nothing to no one. And this is our chance to take it back and to make it about something of significance. And I think this is what sets us apart from other parties, is because in addition to having our values and our pillars, we have principles, deep rooted principles that are expressed in permaculture, which are the Rosetta Stone of indigenous wisdom. So we were fortunate this week to start off the process and had a few folks join us to discuss things like green energy, green organizing, and ultimately green economics, because we set policies and we send politicians as our carrier pigeons to deliver those policies to Washington that are meant to nurture economic environments that provide for the needs of our diverse culture. And that, I believe, is the source, the root of our spiritual health. And so, like you were mentioning earlier, Josh, we had a lot of opportunities to do things locally. Carrie Campbell from the Independent Party of Virginia spoke to us about how we can do, how they were doing light rail and how they were doing projects. And that's one of the areas where the Green Party, I think, can really make a difference, is actually being engaged. I think we need to navigate very carefully, but we need to get to the point where we can say this community garden or this community project was made possible by the Green Party of Alaska, or the Green Party of Virginia, or the Green Party of Wisconsin, or the United Federation of People. So the idea that is, we had a really good meeting. The challenge was the audio and the video sucked. We can try to piece it together, but that's why we haven't released it. And even in the beginning, we talked about it being raw, but I'm concerned because the people that were on the call, the speakers, they were pretty high caliber, and I don't want to disrespect them by putting out low quality video. So that's kind of one of the reasons I reached out to Shane to try to get that going. But in addition to Carrie Campbell, we also had the opportunity to hear from Wilden Fishman with the American Solar Energy Society, and she spoke to us at length about things we can do on community energy. What did you think about your introduction to solar basics there, Josh?
I thought it was wonderful, and it's just like I said a minute ago, it's things we could do at the individual level and with our neighbors to really push green policies, green ideas, and green energy. This is the things parties used to do in the early 20th century. They'll do these sort of things with their neighbors and help people out to really, push the idea of trying to push. Parties used to help people this way, like doing things like these and getting other people to do things like these and be responsible for, get them to be responsible into doing their own lives and helping people that way. I mean, imagine how much more we could get done. We know that most of the pollution on Earth comes from these mega corporations, but if we start doing things at the individual level, and we could walk the walk instead of talk the talk, we could really show people that we're serious in pushing green policy, and we could show people that at that level that what these ideas that we want to push at the local level, at the state level, the national level, and the global level is, maybe it's a good idea. I think often the Green Party, but even the Democratic Party, I pay attention to them, so I know they don't ever think about the issues that people have they discuss at the kitchen table. They don't think about that. And how much you're paying to your electric company is certainly a kitchen table issue. Why aren't we talking about that? I was very happy that I called in on that during my lunch break and was able to listen in on their presentation there. It's too bad that some of the recordings and the call wasn't of high quality. I certainly get what you were saying about that. You don't want to present something substandard. It'll be insulting to the people who worked on that. And, someone seen checking out one of our videos for the first time, or a video of them for the first time, sees that, and, they're going to think, they're going to scoff at us or scoff at them. We certainly don't want that. And as great as the things that he was saying, or, you want to present it the best light as possible, or at least the best light as possible as you could say it. And I certainly want to. I certainly want to jump in on doing something like she was talking about, and doing the Marco Polo project with some locals here. Certainly, that's certainly one of the things we're gonna start on. To doing stuff at the local level to push that. We're not just talking the talk; we're gonna walk the walk.
Yeah. And we got to. The time for talking, the time for action was 20 years ago. And we didn't have it. So we have to take bold action. Just today on the news, they were talking, we need to think big. And thinking big is importing food into the design of the house. Thinking about incorporating food production as part of a house and part of a community, as part of a city, just like you think about waste management, the HVAC, and the lighting schemes. These things create a huge amount of efficiencies and provide just a better quality of life at a lower cost for everyone. And I think that's really something that'll help move us, forward as a species. Now, so essentially I'll be talking to, the other part of this was Graham Boyd. He just put out a book called Rebuild. He's got an organization called Evolve 6, which, it's interesting. I was talking to Cache the other day, and, she introduced me to Guy McPherson and the idea that we are going into the 5th mass extinction of humanity. And everybody's been fighting it or denying it. And I've been like, about time, I've been waiting for this for a long time, and it's not a bad thing, and people see it as a bad thing, but the fact is that nature changes all the time. Change is the only constant in the universe. And so for one thing to end is necessary for a new thing to begin. I mean, trying to have, just ask any guy who's tried to have a relationship with his new girlfriend while he's still having a relationship with his old one. Doesn't work out very well unless they're all working together. Now, the idea here is that the opportunity is created for us to build a new world, for us to lean into the future and write the script for what comes next. Will it be perfect? Will we get everything we want? No, but we'll get a lot more than if we didn't ask anything at all. And so I'll be working on the videos to get those information up for the Green Party page, YouTube page. I also am going to start suggesting, Josh, you set up the whole Discord server, and I've been trying to do some research on how to better organize our data and learn that that's one of the ways to get unfiltered. There's no filtering of the messages on Discord. So maybe we should look at better how we can better organize that for some of our more strategic and sensitive discussions. What do you think?
Yeah, certainly, and I do I do a little bit of that. Like I don't know if you ever noticed in the Discord server, you and I are the officers, and we have a officers channel where only you and I could see it. I have a Alaska Green channel where if you're Alaska Green, you could see it, and I have a general channel where absolutely I have several channels where anyone could see it and message or and do anything like that. And there's certainly more I could do with the Discord. There's a lot more I could do with it, and I know people who do a lot with their channels. They run their small businesses or whatever off it, and they have people join it. So if you want me to do more with the Discord server, I could certainly do that. And I know people that do that kind of thing, that do that kind of stuff. That I could certainly get advice from that are my friends and would be happy to help me.
All right. Well, that's what we're trying to get into, is to organizing these resources that we have. And like I said, taking advantage of the fact that the world is, drifted online, and, we need ways to communicate that are unfiltered. I hesitate to say certain things because we are being recorded, because this is all public, but at the same time, we need that raw transparency to build trust. And that's the challenge we have right now, is that the Green Party of Alaska has been around since 1993, but we're being challenged by a group calling themselves the Alaskan Greens. And rather than trying to work with us and trying to build a coalition, they're trying to take us over for the sole purpose of giving Howie Hawkins Alaska. Howie Hawkins didn't work for Alaska. He certainly didn't earn it. And like,
and I was, I mean, what him? Do we really think? Does anyone really think that him being on the ballot will have done anything? Or
no, this is all pomp and circumstance, but it's it's indicative of really deep and disturbing things in the Greens that we'd heard for months, but we saw firsthand, and that other people are experiencing now. And the fact is that unlike the Democrats and unlike the Republicans, and even unlike the Independents and the Libertarians, the Greens have a purpose. We're not here because we want to be here. We're here because we're needed. We're here because the planet needs a voice, or we're all just going to get eviction notices. And
so I'm just wondering, sorry, I had to mute there. I had someone pop in. I mean, talking about this new Howie Hawkins eco-socialist group, I think people ask, if anyone's paying attention to that, they have to ask themselves, where are they at? What are they doing? We try to do these meetings weekly. We try to invite anyone who's willing to jump in here. Last week we had Christopher Foster, a Green in Kotzebue, and a independent, Justin, here in Kotzebue as well. We had Eric on. These, as far as I know, I mean, I think any Howie Hawkins eco-socialists from Alaska is certainly welcome into this room and into the Zoom call and allowed to say whatever they. Well, as long as they're professional, they're allowed to say things. Where are they at? And we have our elections in April. Why can't they run for these officer positions? And it's what I meant when I said on Facebook that these guys have a loser mentality. They don't want to actually do something that's kind of hard. They think this is, I don't know what they're doing. They're political amateurs. They want to, I guess, I don't know if they're trying to have fun or they're just with this and, doing the eco-socialist thing is fun, or they're so wrapped up into their political ideology that, if you disagree, then they don't want you in the Green Party, which has spelled disaster for the party last year. And we've had less votes than ever, with more people participating in electoral politics.
Well, that's part of what needs to change. And the thing that Graham brought up about green economics and modeling nature, and I noticed this when I was going back and assembling the notes from what Martin was talking about for Indigenous issues with the Indigenous Caucus. And one of those was that they didn't feel like they had a voice in economic development. And looking at the economic models or the economic development plans for several rural communities in Alaska, I can see what they mean, because they're pretty much templates that are statements of the existing framework for the community. They're not development plans. There's no development in them. And so basically, these are the reasons we need to do this. We're getting left behind. The actions that we're taking, there's a very good chance that by the end of this decade, the sea's going to rise another 30 feet. Where's that going to put Kotzebue, Josh?
I've talked to people about this, and I say, right now we're having because of the rise in seas and erosion, Kivalina's having to move several miles inland, and that's costing a whole lot of money. I'm at, in Kotzebue, it's only 14 feet above sea levels, and I talk to people, and you say, I've heard the number. I think you said 30. I've heard 50 feet. We're going to have to move inland, and that's going to cost money, time. I think everyone else would rather be doing something else. Unfortunately, humanity has put us in a situation that we completely participated in, where we're gonna, you know, the the ocean is gonna rise, and you know, a whole bunch of people around the world are gonna be hurt by that, unfortunately. And Kotzebue and many other cities around Alaska are gonna feel it too, and they're feeling it right now.
Yeah, I mean, we've been feeling it for the last decade. That's one of the reasons I came to Alaska, is this is the front line of a rapidly changing planet. Things that are happening here are happening twice as fast as they are in most other places. And essentially, you know, we've already had there are several villages that are currently planning for their relocation. And one of the villages that moved early on was Newtok, Alaska. And what really frustrated me about that move was the fact that when they moved everything, they just moved the buildings. They just reconnected them, same kind of buildings, same inefficiencies, all kinds of stuff. It's like they didn't learn anything. And then what are they going to do? Another 100 years from now, move again? You know, the idea that we're proposing with Constantly Rising, of actually building a city that floats and rises with the sea, is not fantastic. Meaning it's not unplausible. It is radical, but as we've been discussing, we're in radical times, and you know, this is a very good opportunity for us to test a lot of these things, and you know, even at 30 feet, that means that you know, Kotzebue would be 15 feet underwater, and that wouldn't be good for anybody living there. So the only
Yeah,
plan.
absolutely. And I'll just make one real quick comment while I got the idea in my head. I mean, isn't it also radical to just be moving cities physically and making them the same every time? I mean, like I would just keep moving back and back and back until until we absolutely destroy the ecosystem and we get ice age and we'll have to retreat to the equator.
Well, you know, that brings up a very good point, because I shared with the Climate Reality Hub an article that was published today, and they were talking about the facts, the impacts of climate change are going to be rapid and you know, chaotic. And essentially, what people don't realize is that there's a tipping point coming. We're not already there. And what the article was referring to was the breakdown of the Atlantic Ocean current and how that impacts climate. And basically, a lot of people are all talking about global warming, this and melting sea ice and stuff like that. That's not going to be the issue, because if you follow those charts, what happens is we reach a tipping point and shit just cuts loose, and then that causes a rapid a rapid ice age. I mean, they've captured mammoths that were frozen in place with food still in their stomach. And that's what we're looking at in the next decade. We're looking at some very radical environmental shifts, and we need to start acting like we live on a hostile planet, because I think that's the only way we can build cities that are going to endure what we're going to have to endure for the next 1,000 years. You know, the most sustainable city might be the one that's built underneath the dome. So as much as I hate to say it, at least I'd rather have a city under a dome under 20 feet of ice than, you know, an archaeological site for the next version of humanity.
And you know, that's probably the best idea. Unfortunately, and I don't know why, humans, and you know, maybe it's a survival instinct. Humans are much better at responding to a problem than being proactive about something.
Well, I think it's part of the cultural conditioning that we've been brought up in as consumers, is that, you know, we respond to our wants and not our needs. The article talked about us responding to climate change like a frog in boiling water. You know, if the water is already hot, the frog's going to fight like hell to be put in. But if you put the frog in cold water and you gradually turn up the temperature, the frog's just going to bake to death without a complaint in the world. And that's what we're doing. And so we have to make these changes. And so, so our next constitutional convention workshop is going to be on the 31st. And this isn't just for Alaska, and it's not even just for the United States, although it's focused on it here because we are the biggest challenge, and we are the biggest problem. Therefore, we're the ones to make the solution work best. And so the next one is going to be on energy. and focusing on energy installation in a community level, financing, and storage. And I think this will be, right now is a good time for people to start planning their garden, their community gardens, and their new projects for the spring. And so we'll try to have those resources available for folks and try to get all that kind of stuff done. But these are gray areas because these civic actions don't fall under the auspices of traditional politics. And that goes to the issue of one of the main things we want to accomplish during Earth Day is these Earth Day elections. It's because as a political party, the thing that separates us from a social group is candidates. And so we've got a couple of candidates that are interested in running, and when they announce, we'll definitely make them known. But we're also trying to reach out to like we did this year, and be responsive to the candidates across the board, especially the underdogs, and being there to support them. And in doing so, remind people that the Green Party is there. And then this whole idea of us updating our bylaws, as part of this election cycle, we're encouraging people of all political persuasions to register as Greens so they can help shape, our policies and how we're going to act over the next 20 years and what we're going to get accomplished. So we'll provide those links in the description for the video, and they'll be on the Facebook page, Green Party of Alaska. So for folks, will be able to find them there. So we're moving into the 7 o'clock hour, and I do want to kind of wrap up. So what I'd like to propose is we have two really positive motions that were put forth last week, and then one which isn't positive, but it's responsive to things that are going on in the world, and it was brought up by a member, and we appreciate that. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, certainly.
So the first one we put up was the 2101, which was a letter to Murkowski thanking her for standing up for common sense and the values of democracy and speaking out against this this insurrection, or whatever people are calling it, this disruption to democracy. We agree that that's a great thing, and as our first motion, totally applause it. So but like I said, I didn't get a chance to put it out there for much discussion last week, so I'll work on drafting a letter, and then we can just send it to her, since we're all approving of it, and it's something we've been working on, and we heard from her today, so we want to be able to continue that conversation. The second motion, 2102, which is to condemn the Republicans for not doing enough. As a political group, we don't want to take quick action. That leads to mistakes. And that's why I think it's a good idea for us to have this week of discussion before we put it out there to vote. So having considered it for a week and really thought about it, I'd like to ask its sponsors to maybe consider pulling that for the time being, and not focusing on the negative stuff and really just focusing on positive stuff, because there's a lot of people out there that believe that they were answering their president's call. They were doing what they thought were necessary and what was ordered by the Constitution to defend the Constitution. And I think as we move forward in trying to heal and bring people together, victimizing or vilifying those individuals for doing what they thought were right isn't going to get us anywhere except further divides. And when we have people, friends turning in friends, brothers and sisters and family members turning on each other, that is not going in a green direction. So can I convince you to pull the motion from the floor?
Well, and I thought about this. I'm fine going either doing it or not doing it. It was a response. It's already happened. It's old news as far as I see it. Tomorrow we're gonna have a new president. These people they lost the election. Their coup attempt failed, and now they just have to, like I said before, they just have to learn to take the L. We don't have to kick a dead horse while it's down. So I'm fine just forgetting about it.
All right. Okay, so the third motion is the 2103, and that's the motion to create an Indigenous caucus. We had Martin St. Paul on here a couple of weeks ago discussing the idea of possibly starting a new party. Not sure what's happened with that. If he feels like that's something he wants to continue to explore, we're certainly happy to help whatever we can. And in the same meeting where we decided to put forth a constitutional convention, we also decided that Alaska was indeed ready to take the leap. And so we agreed to sign the LEAP manifesto as a party. So I'm going to draft that up and post it and see, move that forward. But that's part of what drove us to that we need an Indigenous culture. We need or Indigenous caucus to make sure that that voice is heard. And going into this, some of the issues that he brought up was a unique identifier, which I think was the purpose of a party or a caucus. Preserving the culture and language, more voice in land use laws, more voice in economic development, child services. He mentioned two specific things, protecting the gravesite in Thunders Bay and the Friends of Admiralty Island. So, Josh, you brought up the idea of forming this caucus, and I don't think anybody's going to have an issue with it. We can go ahead and put it to motion. But the challenge here is that when you put something like this together, you kind of volunteer to at least take it on to get it started. So,
Yeah,
do
certainly.
you do much? Have you been on the Alaska Native or AK discussion group, AK Native discussion group?
I think I've seen it. I haven't been on there. Before, when we started the Indigenous Caucus discussion, my idea was there was a national one that was going to be started by the Green, was going to be for the Green Party. I thought it was weird that it wasn't already recognized. Now things are completely different. And we're going to do one for the Green Party of Alaska, where we, of course, we set up the rules for everything. So we're going to have one that's in the state party. And, now that sort of puts me, instead of, joining something to try to make it happen, that it does, you're right, it does put me in the driver's seat. So, I've talked to Martin, not about this yet, about his party. I've asked him about it, and I don't know what's going on. He didn't say anything about it. I think, if we have a group just for the Alaska Natives, it'll certainly be more interesting for people. I think it'll be interesting for people to join us, and it certainly, I think it takes away some people's criticisms that they had about us. And I want to get more people involved in our party, not less.
Sure. Well, one of the things that I can do to help is put together a poll, with this list of questions, what are your priorities and, kind of stuff like that. And then, you can use that or, I can give you access to the drive and you can set this stuff up yourself. You don't necessarily need me. I just have more of the graphics and the letterhead and stuff. It's a little easier for me to do some of the stuff, but it's important that I take a supportive role in this and let you guys lead this. But at the same time, this needs to be a core part of who we are. That voice needs to be heard, especially if we're going to try to heal this divide, not only between the people and the planet, or the Greens and the Libertarians and all these political groups that all share the same planet, but also because between the healing between the planet and the people. Because I think that once we do that, the Green Party could retire. I would love to see the day when the Green Party is not needed anymore. When we inspire each other and we lead we lead it. It's been a long day, folks. So I dream of the day when we lead ourselves and inspire each other. And when that day comes, we're not going to need defenders of the environment because we're all going to be stewards of our home. Nobody throws dishes and keeps them in the dishwasher or the sink for long. We all have responsibilities, and that's part of this transition from politics, which is more like a fan base and a cult and a religion than actual action when we're talking about the civic engagement of people as a responsibility. And this country is big on rights, but it ain't very big on responsibility. And I think that's a balance point that we could learn a lot from. So with that in mind, I'll go ahead and put this stuff out on the server and get some feedback, and we can discuss it again next week. But we are at 7 o'clock hour, so for the folks at home, I want to appreciate you taking the time to meet with us. We'll get better at this as we get organized and as more people join us to lend a hand to break this down. We're trying to stay positive. We're trying to stay focused on the good things that we can do and the hope that we can bring in 2021. So until next time, we appreciate it. Now I'm going to end this recording, but Josh, hang on a second because I got some few things that we'd like to chat with you if you got the time.
All right.